I'm a Bills fan.
Yeah.
Why am I so concerned about this Patriots game?
Oh, you shouldn't be. This is an easy win for the Bills. Patriots got their last win of the year when they beat the Broncos last week, and that's a wrap on New England. And New England also beat the Bills, what was it, week 3, 4, whatever it was, earlier this year. But what McDermott said's right. Like, they feel different. They look different. There's a different sense about them. No one's chirping about, targets or catches or yards. It seems like whatever happened to motivate them to get on the same page and recognize that they were about to waste a season in which they were a legitimate Super Bowl contender on paper going into it. Someone, flipped the switch and they're playing good football. They're winning games without having their best performances. They're winning games without big numbers from Josh Allen. They're finding ways to win. And like I've said for a while now, I think the Buffalo Bills, kind of like the Rams in the NFC, are a team you don't want right now in the playoffs because if they get in, and right now they're in, obviously, I believe it's the 6th seed, if and when the Bills get in, there you go. And let's just assume for the sake of argument that the Dolphins do hang on and win the division, although that's not a guarantee just yet because obviously they've got the game against Baltimore and then they play head-to-head in Week 18. So the Bills could very well win this division still, but who wants the Bills?
Nobody.
Now, I'll take you one step further. The way Kansas City's playing right now, the Bills will go into Kansas City and they'll beat Kansas City.
Yep.
The flip side of that is if the Bills somehow, some way take the AFC East and steal it from the Miami Dolphins, that means round 1 is in Orchard Park. Now, we'd have to figure out, of course, who has to travel to Buffalo for that game. But I'll tell you right now, blind me, the Bills win that game. I don't care who they're playing. Bills are a problem.
When you mentioned the switch being flipped, and a lot of that has to do with Ken Dorsey being fired. Remember, at the time, we were like, there's chaos in Orchard Park. This team is a mess. They're panicking. But I don't think so, especially when you look at James Cook's numbers with Dorsey and with Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator. I mean, it is night and day, and it makes you really question what Dorsey was doing and if he knew James Cook was this type of a talent.
Yeah, and I'll lean on Craig and Willie for this because I have to imagine throughout your careers, which comes up to a quarter century between you guys and obviously multiple teams, that there are probably, maybe not a lot, but at least some James Cooks on every team you guys played on, where it's just a matter of getting the opportunity, and for whatever the reason might be, a coach or coordinator doesn't believe in you or has his own guy, whatever it might be, but it's glaring. You have a game breaker in Cook. You have a guy also who gets out of the backfield, and I know he had that one drop against Philly, but is a very good pass-catching running back and adds a whole different dimension, which is why I think you're not hearing chirping from Diggs or Davis, because Cook has become a big part of that offense now, and I imagine you guys have seen that before.
Well, it's called opportunity, right? And I remember when I was with the Jets, man, we had a great running back. I know you know who he is, Bilal Powell.
Sure.
When Bilal got in the game, it wasn't just because he was just a great running back, but he really, really studied. He prepped, and he was a monster in practice, and he was dependable. Even when he would have footballers, like James Cook had that big drop in the Philly game, right down the sideline.
Touchdown.
And they actually benched him, and they was just like, man, we can't have that. We need something out of you. And he turned the switch on. So anytime you get a running back who gets the opportunity, who's self-aware and believes he can be a factor once he gets the ball in his hand and does something with it, you just got to keep feeding him. So the fact that Brady has been able to do that, man, this speaks volumes to James Cook being resilient.
At the end of the day, it's about your one-on-one matchups and creating a matchup nightmare for your opponent. That's what James Cook has been. There was a game, I can't recall the game, but we all noticed it. It was like, man, did they lose trust in Josh Allen? Because it was like they started to run the ball more. They started to give the ball to the running back, and we saw them take the ball out of his hand. But what that did was it allowed Josh Allen to get some of that pressure that has always been on him off of his shoulders. And now we're seeing him making easier throws. Less interceptions. He's going to give you one because that's who he is. But he doesn't have to force the ball to Stephon Diggs. They're winning in ways that we've never seen it. And I think that's what's helping them.
And the flip side of that is if I'm a defensive coordinator with Ken Dorsey running the offense for the Bills, I don't even have to think about the running back. Now I got to consider the running back. So it might have actually give Josh Allen more time, play action passes, that kind of thing. I also think in a weird way, and I've never seen this happen before in the 30 years I've done this, the off-the-field stuff that McDermott unfortunately was involved with, which does date back to 2019, right? The unfortunate comments about 9/11 and all that stuff, which I don't really want to reiterate again on the show, galvanized them.
It really did.
That could have gone one of two ways. And it seems like
They knew where his heart was, though.
But that's important. Like, this team showed a firm belief and support of a publicly embattled head coach, and I think that plays and pays dividends as well.
Moving on to second in football, while the Niners were losing to the Ravens, Micah Parsons put up this tweet critical
not
of
Micah
Purdy
again.
and the Niners and how they were doing. And Deebo Samuel responded. Greg,
I know the answer to that.
is Micah Parsons hurting the Cowboys with all of his tweeting?
No, I don't think it has any impact on what happens on the field. But I can tell you what, Deebo happens to be right. Micah Parsons is jealous of San Francisco. That's why he's chirping him, because you should mind your own business. Number one, San Francisco scored 42 points against you, not against Dak Prescott, against you. You're supposed to be the best defensive player in the league. You were on the field when we put a 42 burger in your face, right? And then all Deebo had to say was, it's funny because I was watching the last 3 minutes of your game against the Miami Dolphins. You guys had the lead. You were on the field. Yeah. And what happened? You didn't get the job done. And this is why I think Micah does himself a disservice. He's too good a player and too good a guy to do this every single day. Put the microphone down. You don't need it. And you're putting yourself in harm's way.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this is, like, Micah, we've heard him talk about the new media. And the talking heads and former players wishing that other players perform poorly.
Right.
And it's like, Micah, this is what you're doing.
Right.
Like, how are you paying attention to what teams are doing out there, and your team is struggling in this moment, and you have everything that you can do something about that. Like, focus on the task at hand. This is why you get frustrated with teams who haven't proven that they can win in big moments. Because of things like this, we go back to them when they lose.
And it's on him. No one's making him do these interviews.
You said something that really resonates. When you are that good of a player, you don't need to talk.
Right, let your game talk.
Let that
And
be
by the
what
way,
you do.
San Francisco's going to be home for the playoffs. You're not, right? And that's on you. Why is it on you? Because, again, you gave up 42 to them. You don't have a signature road win this year against a very good team. And you had a chance to beat the Miami Dolphins and keep your hopes alive for the division and the number one seed. And you were on the field. All you had to do was figure out a way to stop the Dolphin offense, and you couldn't.
Yeah, and it's old, right? We talk about him in his mouth week after week. You're on a 2-game losing streak, homie. Like, shut your mouth. And this is why you miss the veteran guys in the locker room. Because if I was in the locker room, or if there was another guy in the locker room who was spilling off Valley, he could have been an impact player like Micah Parsons. You tap on the shoulder and be like, hey, enough, right? Because we're not putting it out there. Right now, we look like clowns. Because when you go to Buffalo and get beat up, and not only beat up, you got washed up and down the field by the Buffalo Bills run game. And then you go in Miami and can't get a stop. When the game was on the line, what are you talking about anymore? Like, there's nothing that should be talking. And, like, if I'm Jerry Jones and the powers to be, tap Mike on the shoulder and be like, hey, enough, big fella. Like, enough.
Jerry's going to be next, so we...
But Jerry can't talk, right? Jerry's the owner.
When you own it, you can say whatever you want. And I want y'all to remember, next Tuesday, I'm going to be on WJFK, whatever the station is. I'm going to be on with the Musers down in Dallas, and I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And Micah Parsons, you better make a tackle, because if we lose to the Detroit Lions at home, there's going to be hell to pay.
It better be.
That's my impersonation of it. No, not good? No?
No, pretty good. I liked it.
Best I got. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.